Play, there's been a bit in the press about the Salter Cartage case and the implications of the Salter Cartage case for business owners in New Zealand. Can
Yeah.
you can you one talk to us about the incident and what you believe the implications are based on the outcome of the Salter Cartage case on our industry?
So we should start by saying that neither of us are lawyers,
We're not. God no.
and we're not
Disclaimer.
involved in the case.
Nah,
So this
I'm
is
not involved.
all
You're not
just
involved.
opinion
Yep.
and punditry on the case as intelligent observers, right? But the Salter Cartage case, in a nutshell, from what I can see, is Ron Salter, the director of Salter Cartage, pled guilty. That's an established fact um, to failing in his duties as an officer under the Health and Safety Act to ensure that there were systems and procedures in place, adequate systems and procedures in place to ensure health and safety for the workers
Yep.
in his company. So it's not.
But the incident that led to the case was where a person was welding in an enclosed space.
He was welding on a
In a
fuel
tank?
on a fuel tank,
Yep.
on a fuel tank, which exploded.
Yep.
Which led to a death. That led to the investigation. But it's really important to differentiate that as the kickoff incident, as the kickoff event, from what the actual pleas were, the end, and what the findings of the investigation. Because his guilty plea wasn't related to the death itself. It was related to his duties as an officer, right, and failing to ensure that there are adequate systems in place,
Interesting.
right? So when you take it in that sense, and this is the way the police are viewing it, his daily activities as an officer, I'm using that term because it's the officer from the Act, and they have special duties on them. That failure is a daily occurrence. It's not the one event. He's accepting that he has continuously had some criminal activity. I'm using quotation marks there, criminal activity,
Wow.
that he is responsible for.
Because he didn't follow the
generated-
health and safety law.
and generated immense personal wealth as a result. So the way the police are pursuing that, essentially applying to the courts to say, the police are saying we interpret it this way. Does the courts agree? Can we claw this wealth back under the proceeds of crime? Because he's a convicted criminal.
And so what did he get convicted with? A $400,000 fine and
He
4
got-
months of house arrest or something?
Yeah, something like that. So that was the penalty for the guilty plea.
Yep.
Right.
He did plead guilty. That's right. Yep.
He pled guilty. So he acknowledges he failed in those duties. And that's one of the comments that one of the judges has made during this case, is that we're already past the first hurdle. We know he is guilty of this crime. So you're stepping onto the next step of, it's a novel case, right? A novel case just means there is no precedent to help in the judgment. It's just a legal term. But having read a lot on the case, I find the police argument quite compelling, which is concerning for our industry, where health and safety standards are, no one's perfect. They're not where they need to be. Our stats are pretty shocking. And it essentially, if it's ruled in the police's favour, if the judge rules in the police's favour, wealth accumulated by directors is fair game. Doesn't matter if it's in your family trust. Doesn't matter if you're a limited liability company. The Health and Safety at Work Act skips around all of that because it finds the individual in his capacity as an officer personally liable. So you are committing crimes. You have accumulated wealth as a result of those crimes.
Pay
Proceed
up.
to crime.
Yep.
Pretty scary.
I'm processing all of that in my head right now, right? Yeah.
It's far-reaching. This is a really, really far-reaching case. Now, it's only going to be an issue for those who are found guilty of failing to
Follow the Health and
conduct their
Safety Act.
duties as an officer. If you're not an officer, then you're a worker, and the duties are far less. They're not.
What defines an officer in the Health and Safety Act? I mean, I don't know. I
It's
haven't read the Health
not-
and Safety Act.
It's one of the hardest terms from the Act to actually define. It's not a company officer. So, yes, directors are officers under the Health and Safety Act, but shareholders and senior leadership can also potentially be officers. It more comes down to how much direction they have, how much impact they have over creation and implementation of policy. So, are they a decision maker or are they, following instructions?
Right.
And if you're
So are you setting up your health and safety policies
do
for your
you
company?
have the ability to
Yeah.
tell and instruct and create a process or purchase a process from a strategic planning person? Do you have the ability to purchase that or argue for or implement
Implement it,
something
yeah.
that will provide safe processes for your workers? Right, so it's much more broad. An officer under the Health and Safety Work Act is much more broad than an officer of a company as per the legal companies register terms.
In your opinion, what is the implication for small and medium-sized construction companies? Now that there's precedence, what should
There's not precedence yet. Because this is still going through.
I thought the
courts.
judgment was done, wasn't it? It's still ongoing?
I believe it's still ongoing.
Oh, whoa.
Might be done by the time this goes out, but
In a couple of weeks, you reckon? This has been going on since
Could be.
2017 or something, isn't
there's
it?
been a few preliminary rulings on different elements of it. One of the ones I found interesting was on Ron Salter. Well, the Salter family have claimed they've been wanting to sell the business, and they can't do that while there's a restraining order on sale of the yard, because it needs to be the yard, I should say, is owned by the family trust, so they can't sell the business without making an arrangement for the yard, and therefore it's potentially reducing the value of the business. So they've counter-argued against the police arguments that if the police were to lose, they've lost the ability to sell their business and incurred damages over that period.
Consequential losses.
So the judge found that argument reasonable and asked the police to go back and check with their senior leadership team, the minister, if they'd be prepared to pay damages, because they should be prepared to pay damages if
Yeah,
they lose.
interesting.
Um,
And that could be in the millions.
I
Who knows? Could be.
speculating.
Yeah. Oh.
It's not the full price, right? It's just the damages that they can prove. So I doubt it's in the millions, but it's still money that a government organisation would have to pay for losing a case, which is
Essentially, taxpayers'
unusual in
money.
itself. Yeah.
Oh, mate. Okay, so finally, what should small and medium-sized construction companies be aware of? Summon that up.
I think most small to medium construction companies already know what their performance is against the duties of the Health and Safety Act at Work Act. We've had almost 10 years to digest that act now. We've had a little bit less time to to absorb the regulations, but most people have a fairly good understanding of what's required for their trade and know how well they're performing against those requirements. Do I think that officers all have a good understanding of their duties, their additional duties? No, I don't. I think you'll see a few business owners. If it goes in the police's favour, I think you'll see a few business owners wanting to get out of the industry and selling. But what can we do as small to medium? Inform yourself, get a really good health and safety consultant, not one that's just all talk. Get one that actually knows their stuff, has some clout, and double check your duties. It's a fairly simple act to read. Go and double check your duties and see how well you're performing.
Fair. That's solid. That's solid advice. Read the goddamn act.
Yeah.
Understand it. Yeah.
And if you need help planning a process, you've got strategic planning.
There we go. Represented. Oh man, appreciate your insights in that matter. It's ongoing case, so we're all going to keep a close eye on what's going on in that space.
I think everyone's paying attention to that case. Everyone in the construction industry is closely watching that case because the implications could be massive.
Well, we'll wait and watch.